Coorong,
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
Good day. Welcome to your news at noon for Monday, February 13, 2023. I'm Kevin Smith in your news today with 4 oil projects already approved and presently pending the approval of the EPA. Leader of the opposition, Aubrey Norton, believes that conditions are ripe for Guyana to seek changes to the lopsided 2060 PSA the country has with ExxonMobil. He said on Thursday that any measure that can be taken to plug the abusive loopholes in the contract will be supported by the opposition. Norton went on to say that not only should Guyana be looking to cash in on a higher royalty rate from the oil company operating the prolific Stabroek block, but steps should also be taken to include a ring fencing provision. Ring fencing serves as a shield and prevents burdensome expenses from being lumped onto one project, thereby shortening profits received. Norton was keen to point out that developed nations such as the UK and US have made changes to their contracts to ensure more benefit to their citizens, even as petroleum companies continue to enjoy increased profits. He argued the People's Progressive Party government is clearly working in the interest of ExxonMobil by refusing to change the lopsided contract. In other news, ExxonMobil has been bestowed the task of laying a pipeline from its Liza Phase 1 and 2 projects offshore Guyana to an onshore power plant in Wales. The company said that the estimated cost for the pipeline and accompanying facilities adds up to just under $1 billion. According to Vice President Bauer Jagdeo, the pipeline will be funded through cost oil. This means Exxon, Hess, and CNOOC will spend their own money on the project, and their expenses will be repaid in barrels of crude produced from the Liza oil field. The amount of crude to be recovered would be equal to the value of the company's investment, plus interest. ExxonMobil's country manager, Alistair Routledge, has said that this is the best deal ever for a country. He said there is no profit element to the gas supply deal that will be signed between the government and Exxon. Basic economics teaches that a rational business will make decisions that maximize its profits. But when it comes to the apparent dollar-for-dollar deal the PPP would have the Guyanese public believe, there is no profit for Exxon. So what's missing? The opposition said the government must come clean on what the agreement is and be open and transparent with the people of Guyana. And moving on, a Houston resident and environmental activist, Daniel Radzik, objected to the EPA's decision to waive an environmental impact assessment for the 3-megawatt gas-fired power plant to be constructed in Wales. The power plant is a component of the gas-to-energy project being developed by the government of Guyana and ExxonMobil. The project entails transporting the natural resource via a pipeline, then separating and treating the gas via a natural gas liquid facility, which will then be used to generate electricity via the power plant in question. Radzik, in her February 3rd appeal addressed to the Environmental Assessment Board, said the gas-fired power plant that carries a costly price tag means it is not a business-as-usual project. In fact, she told the board that this project is the first of its kind. Therefore, residents and communities need to be aware in detail of the impacts of such a project on the environment and the affected population. And now let's tell you, in October last year, Grand Canal Industrial Estates, which is 100% owned by CGX Energy Inc., announced inked a contract with Geico Construction and General Services, Inc. to begin in-river construction of its deepwater port. That project is located north of and adjacent to Crab Island on the eastern bank of the Berbice River. The company indicated that it had engaged in a redesign of its in-river trestle and wharf to seek efficiencies as the price of steel rose steeply in 2022, resulting in a modification of its original schedule of construction. Michael Stockinger, CGX's Vice President of Operations, shared that all of the required pre-stressed concrete piles have now been produced by a local contractor, tested independently, and are now being installed. And just before we get to a short break, I'll tell you that a 26-year-old cyclist is now dead and his pillion rider was injured following an accident along the numbers 7 to 9 public road, Quarantine, Berbice, on Saturday around midnight. Dead is Vikram Basdio, while the injured person was identified as 22-year-old Lavendra Danraj. Initial reports are that a motor car driven by a 22-year-old from Scottsburg Housing Scheme was heading south along the eastern lane, where it is alleged that Basdio was proceeding north along the western drive lane at a fast rate and collided with the car. Police said that Basdio and the pillion rider were not wearing safety helmets when they collided with the front of the vehicle. While listening to Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM, this is your news. We'll return shortly after the break.
This is GHK Lal inviting you to join me weekdays from Monday to Friday on the National Outlook for commentary on a range of issues. Immediately after the 12 noon and 7 p.m. newscasts on Kaieteur Radio at 99.1 FM and 99.5 FM. Looking forward to you sharing in the conversation. The Ghana Fire Service on Sunday confirmed that the Parika Market fire was caused by sparks from a mobile torch. According to the fire service, high winds and the cluttering of the area fueled the quick spread of the fire. Meanwhile, Police Commander of the Region 3 District, Mahendra Sunarayan, said that his ranks have arrested 3 suspects. 3 persons suspected of raiding and looting the market after the blaze. Caribbean economist Marla Dukaran on Friday underscored the importance of Caribbean countries to not only establish a sovereign wealth fund, but also have legislation around it to ensure that the funds are managed properly and invested wisely. A sovereign wealth fund is a state-owned investment fund comprised of money generated by the government, often derived from a country's surplus reserves. Last Friday, Dukaran participated in a high-level conference hosted by the World Bank and the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank in St. Kitts and Nevis. The economist stated that countries like Guyana, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago all have sovereign wealth funds, adding that Turks and Caicos Islands have signaled its intention to implement one. In other news, a businessman, 60-year-old Ravindra Mohabir, popularly known as Slowy, was killed on Sunday afternoon after going back into his burning house at 7th Street Winds Forest, West Coast Demerara, to save his grandson he believed was still in the building. The child, however, already escaped to safety. Before family members could have stopped Mohabir, he already entered the burning building and later became trapped in the flames. Mohabir's 2-story building, which is housing that should be trapped in flames. My apologies. According to initial reports, Mohabir, his wife, grandchild, and daughter were in the top flat at the time and were unaware that the building was on fire. 18-year-old Neal Gittins on Sunday died after being involved in a motorcycle accident on the Abram Zool public road, Essequibo Coast. Gittins was at the time riding a motorcycle when he reportedly crashed into a white motor lorry. We were reliably informed that the teen was at the time attempting to overtake the vehicle when he collided with it. Notably, this is the second consecutive Sunday that an 18-year-old motorcyclist was killed in an accident along the Essequibo coast. Last Sunday, Devendra Khan died after he lost control of his motorcycle and ended up between a bridge and a canal on the eastern side of the road. In the news, gynaes are being encouraged to utilize various cancer screening services available from the Ministry of Health as a means of early detection of the disease, especially since being able to detect cancer early not only increases chances of survival, but allows for the early treatment of the disease before it has a chance to spread to other parts of the body. Cancer that is detected early is more likely to be treated successfully. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Narayan Singh, speaking on a recent program, said the ministry has a three-pronged approach to fighting this disease. These are to increase HPV vaccination uptake, early screening, and early treatment. According to PAHO WHO, the human papillomavirus, or HPV, is one of the most common reproductive tract infections responsible for a variety of cancers and other conditions in both men and women. However, there is a challenge as many are not taking the HPV vaccines, which are now available for girls over 9 years to women up to 45 years of age. And at this time, we will close things off with a little news from today's page 7 of the Kaieteur News. Is Exxon's headquarters moving to Guyana? For $32 million US, one could build a palace. For $32 million US, Exxon gets a castle, a fort, and a flagship in Guyana. Exxon could be planning to move from Texas, America's Ogle, Guyana. Is Guyana an oil-producing nation or a colony of Exxon? And that brings us to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465 or 226-8210 today.